Okay, here's what I want to do. Let's talk the Kelce podcast. Okay, so the first thing is it's like a competition with Rogan and Trump, right? For how many live views and then overall views? Jay Stu, is that right? We had this discussion I think 2 days ago. Is Rogan having Trump on? I believe is the most downloaded podcast in American podcast or audio history, right? So, like, do we care about that level of competition? Dan, you listened to it in its entirety?
I watched most of it. Yeah, I put it on the TV last night.
What'd you think?
It was a lot longer than I thought. I thought it was going to be like 50 minutes, and it ended up being a 2-hour podcast. I thought that at the end of it, I was curious on what was the goal of it? Was it for football fans to learn about Taylor Swift or for Taylor Swift fans to be brought into the Kelce world? And I think that there was a bit of both happening there. I still am wondering. Ultimately, I think it was the better opportunity for Taylor Swift and her fans to hear her stuff on a platform that was safe for her in a way where, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but to form an image that she wanted to portray because she could feel more natural and not necessarily feel like she was going to get blindsided by anything. So I thought it was a very comfortable situation. The most uncomfortable person I thought was Travis, because I thought Jason did a great job in it, but he almost played the part of the third wheel because it was so much about Taylor and her learning football and talking about the new album.
You know, here's the first thing I think we need to get to. There was, for a long time, this is a sham, right? This is a sham. Travis is really smart. You know, he did the reality show, dating 32 women, back in the day. Travis has done a lot of things that have brought a lot of publicity outside of being a great football player. There was a thought for a good amount of time that this was just kind of a publicity stunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we okay putting that to bed?
Yes.
Okay. Jay Stu, you were for a long time, and I know you changed probably 6 months ago, 9 months ago, whatever. Are we okay completely putting that to bed?
Yeah, no, I love, and I could see love, and I think that was one of the takeaways that I got watching this thing, is that these two 30-somethings are giddy in love, which goes against my initial instinct that this was a sham for publicity. I fully apologized about 6 months into that, by the way, and that was my takeaway last night. These are like two teenagers in love. And who doesn't like seeing that?
Nobody. And to answer your question, Dan, I think those are all ancillary benefits. I mean this. Here's my just a guess. Okay? It's a guess. They do this podcast and there's always been you should come on the podcast. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Do I think that it brings Taylor Swift fans to a safe platform where you learn about her, this side of her? Yes. Do I think it blows up the podcast to where now, like, that's a staple, people put it in their queue that never put in a queue before, and the download numbers from here historically, no matter who they have on, will be, yes. But I got to tell you, these are all really rich people. They were going to be successful anyway. And I just think it's probably fun to do something that you've never done before with somebody who's your boyfriend, who you trust, with his brother, and they're funny. And she probably always wanted to do it. And they're like, you know what? Let's just do it right before football season. When you got a little space, let's just have fun and see how it goes. I honestly think it's like we all think everybody's calculated, and maybe they are. But there's also in my mind, I don't think it was a calculated move. I think it was Taylor's always wanted to do it. She's got time to do it. It'd be fun to do. Let's just do it.
I think it was calculated in the fact that the album was going to be announced. I don't think that there was a grand scheme to try to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. But Jason Kelce did start the podcast by saying, I'm sorry, we lied. We said we were going to come back on August 27th, but things change, plans change, and this is the reason why. And so they do the podcast 2 weeks prior to when they said they were going to resume the podcast, and then it's the 2-hour conversation with Taylor Swift. So I agree with much of what you said. I know we've got a little of what the podcast sounded last night, and I don't know if I thought Jason did a really good job in talking about and asking her about the music portion of it. At one point, he kind of told Travis to shut up, but it was also interesting to hear Taylor Swift actually talk about her football learning experience and what she didn't know and now what she does know.
For over 40 years, Tire Rack has been helping customers find the right tires for how, what, and where they drive. Ship fast and free, backed by Free Road has protection with convenient installation options like mobile tire installation, TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
We got that audio, Doug. Here's Taylor Swift.
So that I became like a person who was running through the halls of my house screaming, "We drafted Xavier Worthy!" And my friends are like, who body snatched you? What do you mean we drafted Xavier Worthy?
I forget where I was, but you were the first person to tell me that
No,
we
I was
drafted the fastest
screeching.
man in the draft.
No, I was screeching. I couldn't believe it. I was freaking out. We're
I
talking
couldn't
about
believe
like,
it either. I'm like, wait, is she right? I had to look this up. I'm like, did she get the wrong information here? But yeah, we traded up.
we're talking about cover 2, cover 4, cover 0, man, cover. We're learning. I continue to learn.
Maybe somebody else that even knows what those coverages are.
Yeah, I'm not ready to be an analyst right now. Give me 16 months. I thought that the quarterbacks.
I mean, that's how you played it on the playground growing up. So I understand if you hadn't like.
No, you don't understand. I thought it was like Jared Goff is here and Josh Allen's here, and they're gonna be like. They blow a whistle and then they go at each other and they're like, and it's like, who's going to win?
That's actually.
I would love to see Jared Goff play some defense. Let's see Jared Goff on defense.
I've got some ideas. I've got some thoughts.
Dan, I thought you brought up a bunch of interesting points, but maybe the most interesting was who does this serve? Right? Like who does it serve? What is the point? Why is she doing this? And what do you think that the answer is? I
watched the almost entirety of the 2-hour episode. Towards the end, I just kind of fast forwarded a little bit, but it was on for 2 hours last night. And even at the end of that, Doug, I wondered, all right, did Taylor do this to bring her fans into the football world? Was it to get football fans to appreciate Taylor Swift? What was the reason behind this? Ultimately, I think it shook down to, as we talked it out, I think it was probably a safe space for Taylor to say what she wanted to say and to reveal her album and to do it in a neat way with the person that she loves. So ultimately, maybe it was just to serve themselves, but record numbers watching it. Millions of people when it went live yesterday afternoon, or I think evening in some parts of the country. But I had wondered of what was the reason for it, even after watching the 2 hours, and ultimately, I think it was just good for Travis and Taylor.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think it gives America a look at sort of America's couple, right? And Jay Stu, it took him probably 6 to 9 months to come off of the "it's a fake relationship" argument, and to anybody who thought it was. Then you watched yesterday, you can watch now online and be like, nah, okay, that works. You know, that's a real thing. I do think that oftentimes we think there's a strategy involved. It's a lot like, here's the parallel I'm going to drive. I have a really good friend who worked with the president in his first term. And his thing was, anybody who thinks that when he comes out with some new plan, that they've workshopped it or whatever, that there's a whole plan in place. Like, that's not how he operates. It's just not. Oh, there's this master plan with the economy. Like, no, not really. Just has an idea. Somebody proposes an idea, thinks it's a good idea, gets committed to it, goes and does it, even if it may contradict an idea he had a couple weeks ago. And I think that's what's at play here with the Kelces, is she probably always wanted to do it. Right? And everybody's always like, why don't you ever do that podcast? Why don't you ever do a podcast? Like, we only see you guys taking pictures in a club or at a concert or a football game. Like, podcast, it's just a conversation. It's super, like, you've talked people into being a podcast. Like, I don't know. And then you get the dates arrive. Hey, let's do it now before the season. Let's get out of the way. And we'll just talk. And we'll, talk music, talk some football, let people know who we are. And that's it. Is there a benefit to the Kelces? Yes. Is there a benefit to her? Yes. But I could be wrong. And maybe it's because I believe in the good in people, first and foremost, that I don't think everybody has some master plan on how to manipulate likes and how to manipulate downloads and what it means for your music career. Like, she's a billionaire. She's the most popular female artist in the country. Period. Stop. He is a multi-time Super Bowl champion, a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Like, they don't need much more. They don't need even attention. But it's just their way of people probably don't think she likes her into football. You watch that, you listen to that, and you understand that she's doing what every great partner should do, which is she's fallen in love with what her partner does. That's really what it comes down to.
So that I became like a person who was running through the halls of my house screaming, "We drafted Xavier Worthy." And my friends are like, who body snatched you? What do you mean we drafted Xavier Worthy?
I forget where I was, but you were the first person to tell me that we drafted the fastest man in the draft.
No, I was screeching. I couldn't believe it. I was freaking out. We're talking about
either. I'm like, wait, is she right? I had to look this up. I'm like, she get the wrong information here, but yeah, we traded up.
Yeah.
I'm going to just hop in one thing. This is where you're like a real person. I like when you superstars are real people. She said it's Xavier, but she says Xavier. Right? It's like a personal pet peeve, but for whatever reason, it's charming because it makes her seem like a real person. That there are things about her that aren't perfect,
and that she's learning.
Yeah,
so it's a mistake. That's okay, not a big deal. And yes, I thought it was great as well. And it wasn't a pick or a news item that was so obvious. There was a little bit of nuance in it, or a little bit of inside that you'd have to be a Chiefs fan to really get excited about.
We're talking about cover 2, cover 4, cover 0, cover. We're learning. I continue to learn.
Maybe somebody else that even knows what those coverages are.
Yeah, I'm not ready to be an analyst right now. Give me 16 months.
Yeah, that's he's been on his iPad, and they've been sitting there at home, and he's watching, and she wants to know. I think it's awesome.
Something tells me that he has been doing the same thing. Like, I reached Taylor Swift and Kelce fatigue way early into this, and I've almost come around. I was very interested to watch last night. I was very impressed or surprised by how genuine they are. They're like two giddy teenagers. I love Love. I like watching Love. But I also think that he reciprocates that, because he's had us fooled this whole time into thinking that he loves her music. I thought he was just saying it to be a good boyfriend, but I think he also likes her music, which goes a long way with me, because I don't like her music at all. It does nothing for me. It's not for me. It's for teenage girls. But he seems to, just as she has dived into the football, I think he's actually embracing her music too, which is a surprise to me.
Dan Patrick's show here on Fox Sports Radio, the iHeartRadio app. Go ahead, Dan.
I do think her music is for everyone, not just for teenage girls. It's just Jason may not like it. Yeah. I will say that I thought Travis felt like the third wheel at times, because I think he's used to him and his brother going back and forth, but understanding that this was Taylor's opportunity, that he, was going to let her shine and would sprinkle in things, but it wasn't a back and forth. It was a back and forth between really Jason and Taylor. And I thought Jason did a really good job. And I know that there's some editing that's done, but it's not sneaky editing at all. You know where the cuts are. You know where the places where they've stopped and started again. But Jason asked this question to her, which I thought was great, and I give them credit. Jason just asked, how did it work when you were trying to get your masters back? Like, can you tell me the difference between what are publishing rights and what aren't? And she laid it out for him, and it was like a real music interview, and she explained of like what she could do and what she couldn't do and why it was important for her to get those master recordings and why it may not be for every single artist. And I actually thought that part of it, aside from them promoting and talking about their relationship, was actually an informative part of the podcast.
Yeah, look, I think it's fascinating to understand, to have people understand a business that they never understood before, right? I've had that conversation with a buddy of mine about masters and about selling them and about holding on to them. And so when I heard that part, I was intrigued, but I did know a lot of it. I just thought I thought it was a win, but it wasn't set out. They didn't set out to win, right? They didn't set out to win. They just set out to, I want to do a podcast. Let's do it. That's how it felt. It felt very natural.
There is something that I do think is, I don't contrived is such a negative connotation, but Travis is on the cover of GQ.
Yep.
I mentioned this earlier, but Jason at the start of the podcast, Jason Kelce said, we told you we were going to be back August 27th. Instead, we've got a surprise. We're going to do this August 13th. Obviously, that dropping helps Taylor, maybe helps GQ, helps Travis. But Travis, within this GQ article, talked about how his play over the last couple of years slipped, and he says that he let his media responsibilities, doing an FX show, hosting a game show on Amazon, he let those things get in the way of his play. Mm-hmm. Now, yesterday, Doug, after your show, I was in with Kerry Rhodes on Cavito and Rich, and Kerry, who was an all-pro and spent 8 years in the league, says, I just think he's lost a step. I don't think he has it anymore like he once did, and I think this is all cover-up. And hearing what Kerry said, and I didn't necessarily disagree with Kerry, in the podcast that aired last night with Taylor, Travis talked about traveling the world and said that, and Taylor brought up the point that Travis had talked about going to different countries, and Taylor's like, yeah, well, hello, I am going on a tour. We can go to all of those countries. And so that's what they did in the summer of 2024. Travis was with her in Europe during those spots or going to different places. That wasn't mentioned in the GQ article of the focusing on football. And by the way, it would be okay. Travis Kelce's accomplished enough in his NFL career. He doesn't need to play another down. He's going into the Hall of Fame. But it was interesting to me to hear him say that his TV stuff took him away, but the relationship stuff with Taylor and being in Europe and doing these different things were not a reason on why maybe his play slipped last year.
Which you disagree with?
I just don't know how it helps. You know, like when he went to Argentina.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Yes, during the bye week. I just thought that's crazy. And the big joke is the NFL is now like, we'll just go to South America once a year. We'll go there too. So maybe it looks a little bit normal. But I didn't think that was the great move for Travis in preparing for the Chiefs. They ultimately go on and win the Super Bowl, so it didn't have an effect. But again, none of this has an effect, and it's okay if it did. He's at the end of his career, but it's never brought up as maybe a reason on why. Not the relationship, but just the stuff that comes with the relationship. You're in a different phase of your life, a different part of your life. But he's singled out the TV shows, but nothing in terms of the travel that he may have done with his girlfriend.
I would say this, that inevitably, there will be some form of negativity towards it, right? There always is. And here's how I would take that negativity, right? Because it's not. I don't think it's going to be anybody who matters. I think it'll be the bots or the fingers on social media that matters, right? But remember, in order to watch this or listen to this, you have to seek it out, right? You have to seek it out. So you can say, I don't care about them. Okay, well then don't listen and don't watch. It's fine. No big deal. Like they'll be fine. So if you say, hey, I watched, I listened to this, one, I think it'd be really hard to come away and think it's not a real relationship. It's pretty much impossible. And two, they both seem really likable because Travis does suddenly take a backseat, which I think he probably likes. Right? He's always been the center of attention. Now it's kind of cool to have a girl that's center of attention. Like that's dope. Like he can just kind of be the arm candy. And then three, like, again, the most important thing when somebody says like, dude, I listened to that podcast. Wait, so you sought out that podcast, downloaded it, listen to it, and then you're like, yeah, I'm not into them. Like, okay, that's you want the attention that you think they're trying to get.
Here's where I don't think it's going to backfire on him or in any way, or it's going to matter, is if he plays well this year, then he's right in all the work that he's done with a speed and agility coach work this offseason. And guess what? It was the TV shows. Travis identified the problem and addressed it. And if it doesn't work, and if he has another down season, he's just old and his better days are behind him. Yeah. I don't think that this is going to come up. And again, I don't think it matters. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's just funny because it sounds a little hypocritical by Travis to say it was the TV shows and my attention to that as opposed to being away for a month and traveling throughout Europe.
I thought it took like balls for him to admit that. And for him to admit it on GQ, it wasn't like a sports mag per se or a sports article or a reporter, but it took balls. And I think that only a guy who's had his career already could say, I was distracted last season as my team was trying to win a third straight Super Bowl. Doug, you talk about the negativity and the bots and everything. I think a Chiefs fan would have an actual grievance to be like, wait a minute, you're admitting to being distracted as we were trying to set history last year? What's going on here? And I think Kerry Rhodes is probably right. I think that's his way of not admitting that he's lost a step. But I think it takes balls, and it's almost refreshing to hear a guy actually admit, I was distracted. How many athletes through the years, including LeBron James, have said, there's nothing to that. It's always about the basketball. Everything else is sidebar. Travis Kelce actually admitting this, I think, kind of puts him out there for criticism. Don't you think, Doug?
I do. Again, I didn't hear the entire podcast. So were the TV shows he's talking about last year or he's talking about in previous years? Because he did the big reality show he did was like 10 years ago, whatever, more than that. I was about 10 years ago. I was at CBS at the time, and where he dated 32 women in the off season. I thought that's what he was referring to, not to last year.
No, so he didn't mention any of the TV stuff in the podcast with Taylor yesterday in the New Heights episode. It was in the GQ article where it was pointed out the FX show and the show that he did on Amazon, that those were the shows, because I guess there's multiple episodes with the Amazon show, and maybe I wasn't familiar with the FX show, but those were specifically pointed out as shows that he did.
What is it? Something Kelce? Is it Keeping Kelce? I forget what it's called on the Amazon show, which was pretty good.
And this is a different Amazon. This was like a game show that he hosted, that he ended up being the host. But the dating show that he did was, that he wasn't alluding to that. That was a decade or so.
Are You
ago.
Smarter Than a Celebrity was the Amazon Prime show.
Okay,
and I want to say his dating show is didn't he date a woman from every state? Wasn't it the Kelce 50 or something stupid like that?
Something like that, or was it 32? I can't remember. Wait, so when was the game show?
I thought it was Chasing Kelce. I think that game show was last offseason, 2024.
Okay, so last offseason.
50 women from 50 states vie for the heart of a pro football player. Chasing Kelce 2016.
Yeah, so 9 years ago, I was close. I was close to my years. I remember I interviewed him. Like he was, you talk about a guy who I had no idea would reach superstar status 9 years ago. Think about how his life changed when Pat Mahomes became his quarterback.
We were at the Super Bowl. Maybe it was Los Angeles. I forget which Super Bowl. And Doug and I are prepping for the show. And all of a sudden I hear, hey, Doug, somebody trying to get Doug's attention, who's being walked by a publicist the other way. And I look over, it's Travis Kelce trying to get Doug Gottlieb's attention as he's walking away.
Because he used to come on all the time, and we talked basketball because he played basketball at Cincinnati. And we had some like mutual friends. And, to go from that, like I have his number. Haven't texted him in years. I have no idea if he has the same number, if he'd even know who, new phone, who dis. But yeah, I mean, like ridiculous. Went from, hey, I know you, to these, in the names in the NFL, non-quarterbacks, he's top 5 in any conversation, correct?
Yes.
And then after this podcast, and after, now obviously a long-standing relationship with Taylor Swift, the most known by proxy. So that's, that's an unbelievable rise. Unbelievable rise.